Hello and welcome. This is Faceless Opinion, wondering which side offers the best benefits. Welcome you back to Skyrim Month, the series where we'll go over Skyrim related topics throughout the entire month of November. Today, we're going to be talking about the Civil War. You may be thinking, Faceless, didn't you already make a video talking about the Civil War questline? That I did, fair viewer. How very astute. But that was about the questline, not about the war itself. So I decided to do a thought experiment. Who would win the Civil War? The Legion or the Stormcloaks? And I am not talking about a battle of ideals. No, I'm talking about who is going to win the actual war. Is Skyrim going to be reunited with the Empire, or will Skyrim gain its independence? Now, before I get any further into this, I'm going to establish some ground rules for this. I'm going to be examining this from the perspective of that the Dragonborn does not pick a side in the war, because the moment you, the player, the Dragonborn, picks a side, you basically single-handedly win the war for your respective side. So we're going to be looking at the war from that lens. No involvement from the player. I will be looking at every city's significance to the warfront, as well as what side brings what to the table, and whether or not it benefits them or not. I spend a good amount of time pondering over the variables and looking at the way how things could happen. And I think I figured out who may be the winner of the war, and that would be the Imperial Legion. Allow me to explain how that would come to be. Let's do this in order, starting with the Jagged Crown. Personally, I don't think it will factor too much into the events. I could see both sides attempting to retrieve it, but ultimately no one succeeding. However, if I were to deduce which side could have the best chance of getting the crown, I would say it'd have to be the Stormcloaks. Mainly because I don't see General Tullius wanting to send legionnaires on something he deems a wild goose chase. While for the Stormcloaks, I could see Galmar Stonefist sending an expedition to collect the crown, since he views it as a priority. Meaning the Stormcloaks get the Jagged Crown, though it would not change anything since collecting the crown in the questline yields no long-term nor immediate effects, making it pointless. Next, let's talk about what happens with Whiterun. Originally, Whiterun is neutral during the war, but Jarl Balgruuf ends up siding with the Legion regardless of who the player ends up siding with, and I believe that would be the case here. The battle for Whiterun would play out the same and the Legion would come out on top. Why do I say that? Mainly because of a little glitch that can happen during this quest. If you were to fast travel during the battle, the side you are on will win automatically. However, Tullius and or Ulfric will express disappointment with your cowardice though. Now if you don't want to say that is how the Legion wins in Whiterun, fine, let's go with this instead. Factoring in Legion troops and Whiterun guards, the Empire's chances of winning are far greater than the Stormcloaks. The only way I could see the Stormcloaks coming out on top is if Vignar Greymane, the person who replaces Balgruuf as Jarl if the Stormcloaks win, try to get the companions involved with the conflict, which I just don't see happening because they tend not to get involved with political matters, something that Cadillac is vocal about. So I would say the Whiterun is under Legion control. Now let's examine what becomes of the other holds. Dawnstar would not last into the war, and that would be because of their Jarl, Skald the Elder. I've talked about him in my Jarl video, and to summarize what I said, it would be that he is overzealous with his Stormcloak support. So much so that he sends resources to the war front instead of dealing with more pressing issues like the dragon's return or the nightmares plaguing the city, meaning that the townspeople would more than likely turn against Skald and support the Legion-backed Jarl, Brina Marilis. Next to fall would be Winterhold, and let's be real honest, there isn't much going on in Winterhold. I mean, the Stormcloaks have nothing of main value up there barring a fort. It's not like the city of Winterhold brings anything to the table. Hell, even considering it a city is being far too generous. The only thing significant importance up there is the College of Winterhold, and we know that they are neutral. Besides, even if they weren't, they would not help the Stormcloaks for two reasons. One, being that most Nords do not like magic, meaning that they would not want their help, and two, mainly because of Jarl Courier's racist views towards mages and elves. And since the college is exclusively full of mages, and half of the people in attendance are elves, yeah, don't count on the college supporting Stormcloak ideology. Next up would be Riften, and I'm not gonna lie, this one would be the harder one for the Legion to take, but not impossible if done in a certain way. How? Well, as much as I don't want to give this certain person credit for literally anything, but this is something I could see her doing, Maven Blackbriar becomes the Jarl of Riften if the Legion takes control of the city, and knowing her, she will most likely do anything she could to make sure the Empire seizes control of the Rift, so she can have the authority. which is why I think Maven would use the Thieves Guild to interfere in the war to hinder the Stormcloaks. Think of it like that mission where you have to steal caravan supplies, but on a larger scale. For those who think the Thieves Guild wouldn't be able to manage it, all I have to say is the guild serves Maven, and she would spend as much money as she could if there was a small % chance it would help her become Jarl. I'm not going to factor in her connection to the Dark Brotherhood, mainly because we don't know how much clout she actually has with them, like she does the guild. So unsurprisingly, Maven would lie, cheat, and steal her way to the top, causing the Stormcloaks to lose Riften. Leaving only Windhelm left, and for that one, all they would have to do is put a blockade around the city and just wait for them to surrender. Or storm the city, either strategy works, and just like that, the Stormcloaks have been defeated and the Legion has successfully reunited Skyrim. Now allow me to go into detail about the Stormcloaks and how they may not be able to take over Empire-controlled territory. Starting with Falkreath. The Legion will do anything they can do to keep control of Falkreath because that is right on the border with Cyrodiil, the capital of the Empire, and obviously they want to keep that route secured and protected. The only way I could see the Stormcloaks trying to get Falkreath on their side is if they expose Jarl Siggeir's corruption in dealings that he's made with bandits, though it is hard to say definitively whether or not this would flip the city to the Stormcloaks' side, and even if it did, they would not keep control of it for long since they have a two-front war from Whiterun to the north and Cyrodiil to the south. I could see the Stormcloaks holding on to Falkreath, but only if they have Whiterun, and I've already made my case on why the Legion would end up in control of that hold. Alright, Morefall, to be blunt, this is the weakest hold the Empire has control over, so I could see the Stormcloaks taking control over the hold. However, it would not really bolster up their strength by a large margin. The only thing that Morefall brings to the table would be lumber from the town and a few mines spread throughout the hold. So like I said, not a big gain, but still more useful than Winterhold. Then finally we get to Markarth. Now we could have a similar situation here like we did in Riften. Donar Silverblood, just like Maven, has control over the Forsworn, and it would not be far-fetched to believe that Donar could use the Forsworn to help the Stormcloaks side, mainly because Donar's brother, Dongvar, can become Jarl if the Stormcloaks have control over Markarth. However, I do not see that happening, and that would be because of the Markarth incident. What's that? Long story short, the Forsworn took control of Markarth. The Jarl at the time made a deal with Ulfric Stormcloak to kill the Forsworn and liberate Markarth, and he did. So because of that, I do not see Modnok, the Forsworn king, who is Donar Silverblood's pawn, wanting to help the Stormcloaks. If anything, Modnok and his followers are more likely to escape sit in a mine and kill the entire Silverblood family than to help the Stormcloak cause. Now, would they help the Legion instead? No, they wouldn't. They would just go off into the wilderness of the Reach and live their pagan lifestyle. So yeah, that should about do it. I'm not covering Solitude, mainly because I don't see the Stormcloaks getting to that point, unless they pull massive big IQ plays. In my opinion, I don't see the Stormcloaks winning the war, unless they get help from an outside source, the Thalmor. Yeah, if anything, I could see the Thalmor acting like a secret backer to help the Stormcloak cause, to hinder the Empire in the long run, because if the Empire loses Skyrim downright, or if the war is delayed for an extended period of time, that would hurt the Empire overall. And if there is a second Great War, which the chances of are incredibly high, this would favor the Thalmor greatly. How much the Thalmor would get involved with the Civil War is a matter of debate, but that is something that would give the Stormcloaks an advantage, even though they don't want their help and probably hate the Thalmor more than the Empire themselves. Well, I feel like I explained my case as to why I think which side would win and which side would lose. Now, was it a perfect explanation? I will leave that up to you. For me, this was the most logical way I can interpret it. Now, I am willing to admit that this isn't the most perfect simulation, as there are different variables to count for. If anything, either side could end up winning the war. Hell, we may not know the true winner until Elder Scrolls 6, and even then they could just leave the results of the war ambivalent, as to where there wasn't a winner, just to appease both sides. Anyhow, this was just a thought experiment, nothing to be super serious about. Now tell me, what do you think about it? Do you agree with my reasoning on who would win the war? Do you disagree? Are you Team Stormcloak or Team Legion? Who do you think should be the canonical winner of the Civil War? Tell me in the comment section down below. Now if you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like and make sure you subscribe for more of that good old Skyrim content. Now until next time, I'll catch you all on the flip side.